Well, Monday was just a customer that has been a long-term customer of mine. They've had random jobs for me throughout the years, and this was just another random job. They had a couple of basement windows that were original to the house. Their house is, I'm guessing, late 1800s, based on the style of construction, and the windows just really old and leaky and rotten. So went over there, cut out the old windows, installed the new ones. Both required to be reframed and retrimmed. Pretty easy, 1 day job, in and out. So that was really good. And then Tuesday, we started at a job where it was the, I guess you'd call the aftermath of a inspection that I had completed a while back. So this customer was pretty clever. They had a brand new house built, and before the end of the absolute completion of the job, the customer reached out to me as a home inspector and asked if I can come by and take a look at this brand new build. That doesn't happen very often. Even though I really encourage anyone who does a new build that isn't in the trades, that doesn't know what they're really looking at, to have an inspector come in and take a look. I mean, it's a few $100. You come in and you have them take a look at what's going on, make sure everything's up to par and everything's being completed as promised. And so we're going through. We started on the outside of the building, and there's just nitpicky things that are going on. Mostly, I would say, level professionalism work. Nail lines aren't straight. Some of the flashing details aren't quite correct. The siding goes right down to the soil, and it's just things you don't want to do. Especially on second homes where people aren't going to be maintaining them as regularly as a full-time residence. And so we're going through all that, and it's maybe some little bit of work that needs to be done, but I mean, it was all completed as promised. So nothing really there. And then we get in interior of the house. It's all tongue and groove throughout the house, and you can see some nails. There were surface nails. There's some baseboard missing. Little detail items. The doorknobs and the hinges don't match. One's oil rub bronze, one's bright brass. Just things like that. They're just, are they working? Sure. Is it professional? No, not at all. And so then we start getting into the mechanicals, and I go into the crawl space, and I'm talking to the customer about how the crawl space access wasn't framed correctly. And I mean, it's not a big deal. It'll function, and what I showed him what he needs to look at if there's any future issues. But as I'm talking to him, I'm looking at the plumbing. Now, mind you, I am not a plumber. I don't claim to be a plumber. I don't have any aspirations of being a plumber. But as a home inspector, you learn quite a bit. And as a builder, you learn quite a bit. And when you have a subcontractor come in, you need to know what you're looking at when they complete a job. And this one, there are a slew of issues, but the biggest point was that they put the plumbing vent in the crawl space. And it's a style of vent that you'd find on an old house that was remodel where they moved a kitchen and you didn't open up all the walls to run a new plumbing vent, and you just put an under sink vent. That's what this is. Completely against code and lacking all professionalism. It's just mind-blowing. And then directly next to that was a discharge line from the boiler. The condensate line's a high-efficiency propane unit, and the PEX line is plumbed from the ceiling right into a waste line. No drip leg, no coupler. There's nothing coupling the PEX line to the PVC line except for a piece of duct tape. I mean, come on. So and there's no neutralizer on that line either. So you're just dropping a highly acidic water directly into your septic line. And this is a private septic system, so you're going to end up destroying the live bacteria that you want in your septic, and it's just not right at all by any means. And the plumbing vent is not right at all. That needs to go through your roof line. So, long story short, we called up my plumber. He came over. I met up with him at a future date and walked through it all what I saw, and then I asked him to take a good look at it because I'm not a plumber. So I wanted him to have a good look at everything, and he taught me a couple of items that I wish I was better at remembering the terminology. But basically, on your drainage line, there should be 2 fittings to lengthen the swoop of the drainage of any horizontal run into the main trunk line, and this house did not have that. I think it's called a sanitary tee with another fitting, and instead of a straight 45, I don't know, I can't remember. Anyway, if you have any questions about it, ask a plumber. And let's see here. So he went through, gave an estimate for repair, and then the customer called him back and scheduled it all up, and then called me up and said, John, I need to have a wall torn apart. Can you take care of that for me? So I went there. I don't remember when we did that. About a month ago, I think. First week of December. I think so. And what did we do? Oh, and then this past week, Monday, we went there and put the wall back together after the plumber ran the new drainage line from the ERV, which we haven't gotten into yet, or HRV, and the new plumbing stack line that ties in with the other plumbing stack to vent the bathroom. Now, the HRV, it was draining, it doesn't create moisture like a high efficiency propane unit would, but it will draw humidity out of a space, and the humidity needs to go somewhere. And so they had that plumbed into a plastic bottle. Mind you, this unit is tucked up into an attic space, which is not an open attic, it's all trusses. And so you have to climb over timber to get into where this thing is hanging, and which is super inconvenient. If you're going to install one of these units, you should be installing it into a mechanical room or a crawl space, somewhere it's more accessible, because you need to service the filters on a regular basis, all based on the manufacturer. And there's a series of filters in those things. I want to say there's 3 or 4 filters. Maybe there's more. I don't know. So the plumber ran that drainage line down through that same wall that I opened up for the customer, and we went through and buttoned the wall back up and got them on their way. So that was Monday, or that was Tuesday. Right. And then, that one took us about an hour, especially the 2 of us. So it wasn't far from my house at all. So we just went over to my place and wired up my chicken coop. Wife was stoked because she has to walk, water out to the chicken coop every day. And so we put an outlet in for the enclosure area, so they have a little heater for the waterer. And I put a light fixture on the inside of the shed section, so that when we go in there, especially this time of year, when we close the chickens up completely, I have a little lever door that has a rope attached to it that goes through a piece of pipe and then out. And as you pull the rope, and it opens and closes the door. And when you go in there in the dark, it's hard to find the little rope and all that. So I put a light fixture there, and I also hung a light on the back side of the coop so that we can do some nighttime sledding, because who doesn't like to do that? So maybe I'll show you a video of that someday. And then Wednesday, this is the good one. This is a good story. Customer calls me up. I'm going to shorten the story way up. and says, we have no water pressure. And again, I'm not a plumber. So they called me up, said, I have no water pressure. We don't know what to do. And so I told them to call the water authority in that area. And I gave them a number because I've worked with these guys before. They call them up, and sure enough, they come out and say, it's probably just your pressure regulator in the house. And they couldn't find it right off. So this customer calls me back and says, hey, could you find the regulator in my house? Now, I know this customer because I originally did the home inspection on this house when they purchased it. And then we spent pretty much an entire summer there updating a bunch of the electrical and reworking the front deck. The deck boards were rotten and all that, and replaced all the windows and replaced the roof and all the roofs on the property. So yeah, we were there a good amount of time, so I have a really good rapport with this customer, and I really enjoy working with them. So I went over there, and they have one of those drop ceilings, and so we went popped a bunch of tiles up and couldn't find the regulator, and this basement is completely finished. So I found where the water line came down into the wall and said, I need to open this wall up. I'm pretty certain that if this is like any other remodel I've ever seen, the regulator is going to be right below this line. And if it's not, we'll just keep opening the wall up until we find it. And so Nick and I popped over a few days later, I think, and we shot over there, pulled the wall apart. Sure enough, the regulator was right there. And I said, all right, I'll give my plumber a call, see if he's available. He was not available. He is just booking right out. The customer has used a plumber in the past. They called them up, and he came out, replaced the regulator, and sure enough, it was not the problem. So it has to be outside. There's not enough pressure getting to the valve. The customer calls up the water authority again. They come out, and during their little chat, as I understand it, the customer saw the ground was really wet underneath one of their decks. And they said, well, what's going on here? And the water authority guy said, well, that's going to be your problem. You've got a busted line, or there could be a leaking regulator under there. Really? Leaking regulator underneath the soil surface? Mind you, I'm not a plumber, and I've never even heard of someone putting a regulator outside of the building. But possible. I mean, I don't know. So the water authority said, we're going to have to dig up this entire yard. We're going to have to either take down the upper deck or find some way of bracing it in order to dig a hole big enough to get under there. And you're going to have to basically build 2 new decks, and the footing is going to be in danger of collapsing, and there's a potential that the foundation to the house could be affected due to this, and the dollar signs are just going up and up and up and up, and we're talking tens of thousands of dollars to do this job, if not 100,000. You just don't know where they're going to end, and so the customer is scared, right? Who has an extra $100,000 laying around to fix a leaking water line? I mean, really. So the customer calls me up, pretty frantic, pretty upset, and says, "Yeah, we don't know, Sean. We just don't know." So I agreed to go over. Went over. Oh, I think this was the second week of December, and no, it was right before my birthday. Now I remember. And it was the Friday before my birthday. Went over there 10 o'clock in the morning and saw where all the water was, and was grateful that the freezing in that section, in that area, happens later than the freezing at my place or even here at Frankie. So luckily the ground wasn't completely frozen yet, so we got lucky there. And plus the water would help thaw it out as the water percolating through the soil. And so I started digging, and sure enough, I wasn't finding anything right away. And then my hole just started filling with water. My God, no. So I went ahead and shut the water off to the entire house at the curb stop. And the curb stop, it's a funny thing, right? So when you operate the curb stop valve, it'll tell you what way the line is running. And I made an assumption that the line was running right where I was digging, and it wasn't. So I was, whoa, I need to stop. I'm just wasting time right now. And so there's a lower walkway underneath an upper deck. And so I tore the last 10 feet of that walkway off, and I saw where they had spliced the joists together, if you want to call them that, and broke it right there, slid the deck out of the way, and just turned the water back on, watched for where the water came out, and started digging. And it was kind of like a Mario Brothers game, right? So you go down one pipe and then go over and then come down another and go over and go over and then come down and go over and come down. And it was one of those scenarios where you're just chasing the water as I turn the water off, turn the water on, turn the water off, turn the water on. And about 6.5, almost 7 feet down, I find the pipe. Sure enough, it's got a hole in it. Okay. And mind you, the upper deck didn't fall off. The footing didn't change. Whatever. Took me 4 hours of digging with a spade shovel. I was tired. Let me tell you, I was done at the end of that 4 hours. So I went to my plumbing supply house and told them what it was, and they laughed at me and said, no, that's not possible. I said, well, it really is. This isn't the first time I've dealt with this. What they laughed at was that the house has a 1/2-inch soft copper line supplying all of its water to the house. You don't do that. You just don't do it. You may find that in maybe a trailer park scenario, but in a residential neighborhood development, you just don't find that. So the part that I needed to use to fix it was a subterranean 1/2-inch union. They don't stock those because it's not something you do. So I had to special order it. Fine. They were able to get it in like 3 days, 2 days. Yeah, whatever it was. The following Monday they had it. So they received it Monday afternoon. My birthday was on the 14th. So I did a half day here at Frankie and told the guys, take half a day. I'm taking half a day. Happy birthday to me. Thank you. So I went over to that customer's house and spent my afternoon there. Happy birthday to me. I don't care. And so I went in there. I stopped at the supply house, picked up the fitting, went to the house, popped the fitting in. It was no big deal. Just cut out the bad section and put the new coupling in, pressurized the line. It was fine. Worked great. Went in, adjusted the regulator, and yeah, it was all set. Told the customer. They were so excited because at this point, when I had excavated all the soil out, there was nothing giving that pipe any sort of back pressure, and so they had no water pressure. They couldn't take a shower. They could barely fill up a coffee pot. So, and they couldn't flush their toilets regularly, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they were so excited. It didn't cost them tens of thousands of dollars, and they had water again. And so I walked through and inspected the rest of the plumbing as much as I could, see if there's any other issues that they could take care of while they're in this mode of repairing water lines. And I did find another problem that they should get addressed. Which is a copper line is running over the top of some galvanized ductwork, and it's resting on it. Well, when you have galvanized touching copper, you'll get the electrolysis, and it'll start eating the pipe. And And sure enough, it was just completely covered in that green erosion, not erosion, yeah, whatever. And so I went ahead and propped the pipe up and put a piece of cardboard in between the two surfaces. But outside of that, I didn't see anything else I should really be worried about. And so that brings us back to last week. So on Wednesday, we went ahead and put that wall back together where the plumber put their new regulator in. And yeah, they're all set. So in the spring, we'll go back and we'll repair that lower deck. And we have some other stuff we're going to do there too. And so right after we put that wall back together, again, took us an hour. Went ahead back to my house and did some more errands, right? It's just a honeydew list. And not a great way to utilize my resource of having, Nick with me, but it was really handy because I don't have time, running this business, running the YouTube channel. There's just no opportunity to really catch up on all the honeydew stuff. So it was a great opportunity to do exactly that. And we fixed a couple of my kitchen cabinets that were sagging because they're really cheap. Yeah, the kitchen is in dire need of a remodel, but that's way down the line. So I went ahead and fixed that. There was a couple issues where some shelvings were sticking out a little bit that my daughter could hit her head on. It's fine. I went ahead and nicked those off, and what else? Oh, we cleaned out my pallet shed. Now, I call it the pallet shed because it's built completely out of pallets. That big rage everyone was doing, everything out of pallets, build this out of pallets, build that out of pallets. Well, I actually did. I just bolted pallets together to create a floor system and walls and a little roof and covered it in some used galvanized metal that a friend of mine gave me. And works out great. I love it. But like any shed or garage or shop, it just filled with stuff. And it was in dire need of cleaning out, and it was housing a bunch of materials that we need here for Frankie. So I went ahead and loaded the truck with whatever random trash or materials that we needed for the job here. And I call it random trash because I'll take perfectly good items that there's no good reason to throw them out, and I take them home, right? A light fixture, a toilet that didn't quite match a certain aesthetic or whatever, and I'll put a date on it. And if it's in my shed for a year, it's gone. Because every year I'll get a wild hair up, and I'll just want to clean everything and throw everything out. So this was one of those times where the shed was just and went ahead and cleaned it all out and brought everything here to the dumpster or the pocket. And yeah, it was a great help, man. What a night and day difference it is to even look at that shed and see that it's all organized and clean. So that was great. So that pretty much takes us through the week. Thursday I came up here and unloaded the truck from all the stuff we pulled out of the pallet shed, and took the dump trailer to the dump and unloaded that because it's pretty darn full. And now we're just getting ready for this week. And so this week we're starting today. It's -6 this morning, and I am not working outside on that siding doing this. Nope. In a job this big, there's so much other stuff we can do. You can hear Nick in the background. He's denailing all the stuff down there and running a couple of wires. And today we have the concrete ceilings, for lack of a better term, over in that space there that we started ripping out. And then in the space back there, it has the same ceiling. So we'll rip that out, rip that one out, and then these ceilings will be ready to install the timber frame that I plan on putting in. I just want to get as much weight off of the system as I can before I start jacking up on them and installing the timbers. So hopefully That goes well today, and the rest of the week is going to warm up. I think tomorrow we have another single digit start, maybe a negative start, but it should be warming up to the mid 20s, and so that's fine to do whatever we want outside. Minus concrete work or something like that, but yeah. So I think that's it. So if you wouldn't mind, if you liked it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, give me some comments down below, and let me know if you have any questions about either the stories I told or the project moving forward. Any interaction from you guys, I would really, really appreciate. So, till next time, see ya.